Hi there, I'm Larry Furrow. I help out with the Grimes Flying Lab here in Urbana, Ohio. I'm here with Eric Johnson this morning. Going to try to give you a few little details about this airplane if I can remember them all at my age. So I will walk you around, of course. It's flap. And then on out here we have the aileron. Then we come to a little interesting feature on the twin beaches. You never see a twin beach in the country ever with pods on here. Originally the airplane came out of the factory in 1944, July if I remember right, and it was a C-45F. And then it found its way around the country at various Air Force bases during the war. In 1953 it went back through a rebuild project out in Wichita. They had a separate facility and a disassembly line, and they put the parts on the train and sent them back to the factory. And we don't know if the actual wings for the airplane in 44 ever came back to mate with the airplane, but it has a new serial number and things like that. And came into the Grimes fleet. This is the aircraft number 4. There was 2 twin beaches ahead of it, and then they used a North American T-28 for a long while, but it was slow, couldn't hang enough lights on it, and it was a little tricky, and you want to fly with those mountains going out to Boeing or something like that. But it was a fun airplane. I never got to ride in that one. But they retired that and picked up this airplane when it was released from the Air Force. It went out to Boneyard there in Tucson. Then some company named Dontronics picked it up, and they flew it around and they bellied it, and then it was put back together, rebuilt, and some photographic company had it. And back under the plane here where we had this light pod, it worked out real well for us because we had the camera in there. They had to rerun the cables around to get to the tail and the rudders, things like that. And it took them quite a while to get it back, and then Grimes purchased it. And company came out in the engineering department, and they designed these pods, and they started putting various systems on. Originally this had a sweep beam light for the airlines. It would sweep back and forth and oscillate, and then over the years they went to strobes, things like that. Originally there was a Lawrence APU back here in the cabin just inside the door. When you flew in that thing, it stunk like crazy. But there's various systems on here. In fact, we even now have a new LED light that Honeywell puts out. Honeywell bought out Grimes and 3 other companies that owned Grimes at the time. So it's still in business here in town. And there's no fuel, of course, in here. It'd be a big bang. And there's a nice terminal board in here. All the wirings can come in place. And we have various systems here. This is more like toward general aviation, the general aviation strobes, and typical position light at the time. And then you have another position light, and they put the new LED type in here. And then there's 3 strobes in here. One's an airline high power light. I can't remember what the lumens are on it, but we have to run that on an inverter that's inside the cabin. Originally there was we had to put on 200 amp generators on this thing, and there's an inverter with a battery inside to power up all the big heavy duty items. And one time there was we put a pod on here with an infrared dome on it. The idea was infrared collision avoidance, and we try to pick up strobe lights, but it never worked because you have the sun to contend with. So that went out the door. Okay, we're coming up here in the engine. We'll walk around and get a better shot from the front. It's Pratt Whitney R985, just like typical twin beaches had at the time. And Covington Aircraft Company down in Oklahoma, they gave the engines a quick overhaul. Not overhaul, but they were on a twin beach down in Africa, and it bellied in. The engines came back to the States, and Covington did a teardown and put it back together, and they've been working pretty good. This one runs a little warm from time to time. So, and of course you got the pitot tubes. Originally, in the old days, we had a different nose on here. We got the old nose over in the hangar. Two humongous flash tubes, and we had a power supply. It must have been 3 foot by 2 foot back in the baggage compartment. When you lit that thing up at night about 5 miles away, it lit this place up. Something to see. And in fact, one of the mechanics, he lived over in St. Paris in his life. It's about 15 miles to the west. And sometimes when Mel Partial, the pilot, would come back in from a trip from somewhere, he'd get a little low and turn that thing on at night and turn daylight over there at his house. Joe Stockton was the mechanic's name. Nice guy. B-24 pilot in the Pacific during the war. Okay, let's point out this pod. This is a little different from most Twin Beaches. Like I said earlier, this had a photo camera in there before we got it. You got a controllable landing right here. We can vary the pitch on it and the rotation on it, which helps in taxiing the aircraft at night, of course. Then you'll notice this pod hanging down. It's got two Grimes Grimes G9950s, there we go. And then it's got the one old whale light, they call it. And then you have the two strobe lights down there that are used on the Black Hawk helicopter, and Air Force One used those for a while until they really upgraded. And that worked out good for us because the hole being there, the cables to the rudder and the elevator were out of the way. So, let's see if this old man can get up. Okay. And of course, another engine just like the one on the left. And we're coming over here now to the other pod. Of course, light colors change to green unless you're the strobe. Same systems. Okay. We used to have, there's holes here reminiscent of the old electroluminescence. They'd put those on fighters for formation lights. I've seen some on F-18 still, so I don't know whether it's actually being replaced by newer technology or not, since I haven't been at Grimes in a good many years. And same here, green, white strobes, LED again. Aileron, and you can catch up briefly. Eric here. This patch right here, it used to be the exhaust port for the Lawrence power unit we had inside there. Noisy, smoky, oh gosh. All the windows open. And let's see, we got some lights on top. Rotating beacon strobe, and then this big curvature here, that's a real powerful beam. I can't remember the numbers. The guys that should be telling you that are the spark chasers we have, Chris McConnell and Dave Utes. And then we have another one of the lights, dual red and white, with helicopters and so on used. And there's a tandem oscillating light a lot of the jets used on Sabreliners and Falcon jets, things like that over the time frame. Yeah. And let's see if we can get back here. Rudder, American flag. This is the colors we painted on it to go to Paris Air Show back in 1975. I remember that because that was about a week before that I got laid off from Grimes. But I had the ball paid for, so I went over anyway to Paris Air Show. But Earl Bennett was the chief pilot at the time, and he flew it, left out of here and went to Goose Bay, Canada, then to Narcissus, Iraq, Greenland, the old Bluey West 1 from World War II days. Then they went into Reykjavik, then on in over into someplace in Scotland. They stayed there a couple of days and they changed oil, things like that, looked it over, and then on down to the Paris Air Show. And then after that, I was at the Paris Air Show and got to see him fly their demo. He got a little low one time. He was grounded the next day, which was kind of funny. But yeah, we got a couple light systems back here. Single tail pod. We only got two. We got a strobe and then a position. Take it back. There's two position lights there, and then the old type position light here. Then we put on a new LED type. It's really, really bright. In fact, we got it on the wrong wires right now. This should light up separate. Right now, they both light up at the same time. They never got around to fix that. So, yeah. Okay, let's continue on. We're working our way back to the door. we'll stick the camera just inside and you'll see where the APU's set, right about in there. Okay. And the chair you see is the switch operator. And the light panel there controls all the lights. And there's right to the left is the big circuit breaker panel. And when it was rebuilt, they did it in such a way that it uses a whole lot of less electrical power. And now it's easy enough to switch things around just by switching wires here on the circuit boards. So that was pretty good. Okay, there you have it. We don't go to many air shows. It was in Oshkosh in 2009, the first year we were back flying it. And then it went to Sun and Fun, I forget, must have been 2010, because that was the first time the B-25s came to Urbana and the plane came back at that time. And let me think here a second. Went out to Topeka, Kansas a few years ago for a big Warbird get-together with the guys from Mid-American Flight Museum, Scott Glover and that group, and I was going to go on that trip, but folks had health issues, so I ruled that out. But everybody thinks Grimes is behind this money-wise, things like that, and Honeywell still puts money in it, and that's not the case. We don't have enough funds to really keep it flying a whole lot, and keep trying to come up with different ways, but since it never dropped bombs and never shot a gun, people are not interested, and it's a niche aircraft. So we get by with what we get by. We fly on the 4th of July every year, and used to bring Santa Claus in for Christmas holidays, day after Thanksgiving. So it's been fun over the years. So I guess there you have it.